Well, good afternoon. We're continuing on with the commentary on the book of 2 Samuel, and we're up to chapter 15. No, it's chapter 14. We're jumping ahead of ourselves. Chapter 14, Joab's plan to bring Absalom home is the title of chapter 14. So what do we have as a start here? Now Joab the son of Zeruiah perceived that the king's heart was towards Absalom. And Joab said to Tekoa, and fetched thence a wise woman, and said unto her, I pray thee, feign thyself to be a mourner, and put on mourning apparel, put on mourning clothes, and anoint not thyself with oil, but be as a woman that had a long time mourned for the dead, and come to the king, and speak on this manner unto him. So Joab put the words in her mouth. When General Joab realized how much King David was longing to see Absalom, his son, he sent for a woman of Tekoa, who had a reputation for great wisdom, and told her to ask for an appointment with the King David. Joab then told her what to say to the king. Pretend that you are in mourning, Joab instructed her. Wear mourning clothes, and dishevel your hair as though you have been in deep sorrow for a long time. And when the woman of Tekoa spoke to the king, she fell on her face to the ground and did obeisance, and said, Help, O king. And the king said unto her, What ails thee? And she answers, I am indeed a widow woman, and my husband is dead. And thy handmaiden has 2 sons, and they 2 strove together in the field, and there was none to part them, but one smote the other and slew him. And behold, the whole family has risen against thy handmaiden. And they said, Deliver him that smote his brother, that we may kill him for the life of his brother that he slew. And we will destroy the heir also. And so they shall quench my coal which is left, and shall not leave to my husband neither name nor remainder upon the earth. And the king said unto the woman, Go to thine house, and I will give charge concerning thee. Go to your house, and I'll sort this out. And the woman of Tekoa said unto the king, My lord, O king, the iniquity be on me, and on my father's house, and the king and his throne be guiltless. And the king said, Whosoever say aught unto thee, bring him to me, and he shall not touch you any more. Then she said, I pray thee, let the king remember the Lord thy God, that you would not suffer the revengers of blood to destroy any more, lest they destroy my son. And he said, As the Lord lives, there shall not be one hair of thy son shall fall to the earth. Then the woman said, Let thine handmaiden, I pray thee, speak one word unto my lord the king. And he said, Say on. And the woman said, Wherefore then hast thou thought such a thing against the people of God? For the king does speak this thing as one which is faulty, in that the king does not fetch home again his banished son. For we must needs die, and as water spilled on the ground which cannot be gathered up again, neither does God respect any person. Yet does he devise means that his banished be not expelled from him. So now, verse 15, conclusion. Now therefore, that I have come to speak this thing unto the Lord my king, it is because the people have made me afraid. And thy handmaid said, I will now speak unto the king. It may be the king will perform the request of his handmaid. For the king will hear to deliver his handmaid out of the hand of the man that will destroy me and my son together out of the inheritance of God. Conclusion. Then my handmaid said, The word of the Lord my king shall now be comfortable, for as an angel of God, so is my lord the king to discern good and evil. Therefore the Lord thy God be with thee. So she blesses him. Then the king answered and said to the woman, Hide not from me, I pray thee, the thing that I shall ask thee. And the woman said, Let the Lord my king now speak. And the king said, Is not the hand of Joab with thee in all of this? The king was able to discern who put her up to this. And the woman answered and said, As my soul lives, Lord the king, none can turn to the right or to the left from aught that my lord the king has spoken. For thy servant Joab he bade me, and he put all these words in my mouth of thy handmaiden. To fetch about this form of speech has thy servant Joab done this thing. And my Lord is wise according to the wisdom of an angel of God, to know all things that are on the earth. So let's look at it again. What's the trouble? The king asked the woman. I am a widow, she replied, and my 2 sons had a fight out in the field. And since no one was there to separate them, one of them was killed. Now the rest of the family is demanding that I surrender my other son to them to be executed for murdering his brother. But if I do that, I will have no one left, and my husband's name will be destroyed from the face of the earth. Leave it to me, the king told her. I'll see to it that no one touches him. Oh, thank you, my lord, she replied, and I'll take the responsibility if you are criticized for helping me like this. Don't worry about that, the king replied. If anybody objects, bring him to me. I can assure you that he will never complain again. Then she said, Please swear to me by God that you won't let anyone harm my son. I want no more bloodshed. I vow by God, he replied, that not one hair of your son's head shall be disturbed. Please let me ask one thing more of you, she said. Go ahead, he replied. Speak. Why don't you do as much for all of the people of God as you have promised to do for me? Why don't you do as much for all of the people of God, that is, all the people of Israel, as you have promised to do for me? She asked. You have convicted yourself in making this decision because you have refused to bring home your own banished son. All of us must die eventually. Our lives are like water that is poured out on the ground. It cannot be gathered up again. But God will bless you with a longer life if you find a way to bring back your son from his exile. But I have come to plead for my son, because my life and my son's life have been threatened. And as I said to myself, perhaps the king will listen to me and rescue us from all that would end our existence in Israel. Yes, the king will give us peace again in Israel. I know that you are like an angel of God. Remember, the reference, an angel of God, is Jesus. I know that you are like an angel of God and that you can discern good from evil. May God be with you. I want to know one thing, the king replied. Yes, my lord, she said. Did Joab send you here? And the woman replied, How can I deny it? Yes, Joab sent me here, and he told me what to say. He did it in order to place the matter before you in a different light. But you are as wise as an angel of God, and you know everything that happens. And the king said unto Joab, Behold, now I have done this thing. Go therefore, bring the young man Absalom again. And Joab fell to the ground on his face and bowed himself, and thanked the king, and said, Today thy servant knows that I have found grace in thy sight, my lord, O king, in that the king has fulfilled the request of his servant. So Joab arose and went to Geshur, and brought Absalom to Jerusalem. And the king said, Let him turn to his own house, and let him not see my face. So Absalom returned to his own house, and saw not the king's face. So the king sent for Joab and told him, All right, go and bring back Absalom. Joab fell to the ground before the king and blessed him and said, "At last I know that you like me, for you have granted me this request." Then Joab went to Geshur and brought Absalom back to Jerusalem. "He may go to his own quarters," the king ordered, "but he must never come here to the palace, because I refuse to see him." Verse 25, "But in all of Israel there was none to be such much praised as Absalom for his beauty. From the soles of his feet to the top of his head, there was not a blemish in him. And when he polled his hair, for it was at every year's end that he polled it, because the hair was heavy on him, therefore he polled it. He weighed the hair at the head of his head at 200 shekels of the king's weight. And unto Absalom there were born 3 sons and 1 daughter, whose name was Tamar, and she was a woman of fair countenance. Now, no one in Israel was such a handsome specimen of manhood as Absalom, and no one else perceived such praise for his beauty. He cut his hair only once a year, and only then because it weighed 3 pounds, and it was too much of a load for him to carry around, made his neck ache. He had 3 sons and 1 daughter, and Tamar was a beautiful girl. Now don't get confused. There are actually 2 girls with the name Tamar in the Bible, and they both suffer from sexual abuse. So Absalom dwelt 2 full years in Jerusalem and saw not his father's face. Conclusion. Therefore Absalom sent for Joab to send him to the king, but he would not come to him. When he sent again a second time, he still would not come. Therefore he said unto his servants, "See, Joab's field is near mine, and he has barley growing there. Go and set it on fire." And Absalom's servants set the field on fire. That got Absalom's attention. Then Absalom arose and came to Absalom unto his house, and said unto him, "Why have your servants set my field on fire?" And Absalom answered him, "Behold, I sent unto thee, saying, Come hither, that I may send thee to the king to say, Wherefore have I come from Geshur? It had been good for me to have still been there. Now therefore let me see the king's face, and if there be any iniquity in me, let him kill me." So Joab came to the king and told him, and when he had called for Absalom, he came to the king and bowed himself on his face to the ground before the king, and the king kissed Absalom. After Absalom had been in Jerusalem for 2 full years, and had not yet seen the king, he sent to Joab to ask him to intercede for him. But because of what the king had told Joab, he did not come. So Absalom sent for him again, but again he refused to come. So Absalom thought, "I know a way to get him to come here." Absalom said to his servants, "Go and set fire to the barley field of Joab next to mine." And they did as they were commanded by Absalom. That got Joab's attention. When Joab came to Absalom's house, he demanded, "Why did your servant set my field on fire?" And Absalom replied, "Because I wanted you to ask the king why he brought me back from Geshur, if he didn't intend to see me. I might have well have stayed there. Let me have an interview with the king. Then, if he finds me guilty of murder, let him execute me." So Joab went and told the king what Absalom had said. Then at last David summoned Absalom, and they came and bowed low before the king, and David kissed him.